Welcome to today's episode of Life Served Neat. And we are going to be talking about the American dream today. I'm welcoming to the podcast Christi Thompson, founder and CEO of Loomiti, which is a digital marketing and strategy company. And she helps businesses and individuals figure out who they are, what they need to be saying, who they need to say it to, how to say it, and how to get it seen out there in the digital space. Her background is in strategic marketing with sharp positioning and event-driven growth. And her specialty is to see what's missing that isn't obvious to everybody else and get in front of it with some clear thinking, decisive action, and results and good business outcomes. She blends creativity with discipline and grounds some big ideas in the reality of today, which is an ever-changing landscape. She's as comfortable talking about brand story as she is about challenging people's assumptions, tightening up the strategic plan, and asking the hard questions. So today she's going to bring that same energy, that same perspective, and no-nonsense idea to this conversation. And we're going to talk about how Loomiti came to be a business. So welcome to the podcast, Christi, Auburn graduate, War Eagle.
War Eagle, thank you so much for having me, Beth. I'm excited.
Well, I'm glad you were able to join us today. So you hear a lot about people saying the American dream is dead. And I'm here to say it is not dead because you are a perfect example of the American dream. So I want you to kind of take us back to the beginning and talk a little bit about how Loomiti came to be.
Absolutely. So we're going to take it way back because it actually got started my senior year of high school, of all things. So I transferred schools and came upon this great program, and it was media productions. And I was so excited to be in there. We learned about cameras, video editing, documentaries, and then I loved it so much I took it the next semester. I had a wonderful teacher who just really got me involved. And my second semester, I was able to take it and do TV shows, to do the news, all kinds of fun things. And then I went to college and I said, you know what? I'm going to major in world cultures and business, right? No, that just really wasn't me. And so I went back out there looking for a journalism type program, which our school did not have a really great one at the time in college. So I transferred to Auburn, where my husband, my current boyfriend at the time, went. And I got involved, and this is a really interesting story, with the radio program. So Beth, they had a newspaper, and one day I was sitting there before I went to talk to an advisor, and I was reading it, and it said, there's no more local music on the scene. There's none of this. There's none of that. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go talk to the radio station. And so there was this guy named Scott, and he was the radio advisor. And I went to him and I said, hey, so I want to bring back a program where people perform live. I get to interview them, and we shared out there for everyone to see around Auburn. And I think it even went all the way to Atlanta, which was really exciting. And so someone said, you'll never be able to book all those guests. You'll never be able to do that. Okay, well, that gets me motivated. What do you mean I can't do that? What do you mean? So I ended up getting a whole lineup of local artists. I mean, I even brought on the Auburn Marching Band. I brought on show choir. I brought on all the different things that you could possibly think of to fill those slots. And it was called Live and Local. And I guess my kind of accomplishment was I even had, and I've actually seen them play live now, I had a band reach out and say, hey, we'd love to be on your show. We're coming through Auburn. Unfortunately, it didn't work out with the timing, so they didn't make it on. But Auburn actually ended up funding the marketing for my show. So that's how I got into marketing, was marketing my radio show.
That is a fascinating story.
Yeah. And so I ended up, we made posters. They put all the money behind it. I made a website on Wix and just started marketing my radio show. And then I said, you know what? I love this. And then randomly I got a job as an events coordinator at a grocery store called Earth Fare. And we had to go in and we had to demo things and give away samples and run these different nights they had. And so I was running, what was it, the steak night. And so people would come in for a steak dinner, and I had to think of ways to like bring people into the store. And yeah, this was just a part-time job, making minimum wage. And I brought in like ballet dancers, I brought in local music, I brought in all these things and got to market it. So those two things in college just made me realize how much I loved marketing.
That is a
So
fantastic story. So, when you originally went to college and you thought you were going to major in world culture and business, what did you think at that time you were going to do with that? Because I think that happens to a lot of people.
you know what? So that was the thing. I could not figure out what is it like, what's my next steps? Like I always told my dad, I was like, when you went to school, you were accounting, you became an accountant, what am I going to do with this? And I think it was because at the time my dad was big, and he still is, into a secondary language. So we had to learn Spanish. And so I took Spanish throughout high school. I've had it since I was in kindergarten. I wouldn't say I'm fluent because I haven't lived in the countries that speak it, but I can understand it. And I ended up minoring in it. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to do something with that. I'm going to travel because I love to travel. And I just could not make it work. I didn't love the classes. It just wasn't something. So when I transferred to Auburn, they had radio, TV, and film. And I loved it.
You really found your tribe at that point in time, didn't you?
I sure did. Like, I even had to have an internship. And so I took on all these free internships. At that point, I was like, no partying scene here, fully focused on my studies. So I was working at the radio show. I took an internship on campus with the media production group. They helped me make a commercial for the radio station that still lives on YouTube. And actually, one of my current clients found it. So I've gotten to do a lot of fun things. I was part of the corner news, and I did some news stories. That's when I found out reporting was not my thing.
What I love about this era of your life is that you were not waiting for anybody to invite you to do this. You weren't waiting really for permission. You went out and said, "This is what I think we need to bring back, and I'm going to do it. And I just need people to get out of my way." And when they said, "You can't do all that," you said, "Watch me."
That's right. And honestly, I had some great advisors because it was someone in the class. They were like, "Oh, you can't do it," and then the advisor was like, "We're gonna make it happen." So once I was able to convince people, um, it was great. I had a team backing me. People were joining. It was wonderful. I really enjoyed it. I actually still have the poster. I'm about to hang it up in the office.
That's fantastic. So you did all this in college, great experience. So let's talk about what happened after college.
Ooh, I came out, and so my dad's an accountant, so he's very much into spreadsheets and all this stuff. So I come out of college, and I'm living with him because that's what you do. And I didn't get a job right out of college because I came out at the worst time possible, and I had this Excel spreadsheet of every single business that I put a resume in, and I think it ended up being like 1,200 companies that I put in. And yeah, it was a lot. And I just really could not find anything. My husband had an easier time finding stuff, but for me, it was a little more difficult because I knew I didn't want to go to New York. I didn't want to go to Los Angeles. I really just wanted to go into marketing because that's what I loved. I didn't want to be in the front of the camera all the time or anything like that. And so I found a job at a magazine, and it was a great experience because I realized I love design work. I love designing things. I love to make them look pretty and engaging. And that's just kind of where it came from. And then really the next big step was I got hired by an IT company locally. I'm in South Alabama. And the owner there really just changed my life because he took me to all of these conferences to learn about marketing. And so he educated me. Thought leadership has always been a huge thing for him. So he's actually one of my clients today. And I talk to him on the regular. But he would take me to all these conferences in Nashville. And I just learned so much about marketing at these. They were called Robin Robbins. And she was like this marketer, and that they call it managed services providers, so MSP world. And she just taught us all this marketing. And from there, I just ate it up. And the rest is history.
So you stayed at the IT company for some period of time, and then what happened? At some point you relocated.
I did. And, my boss at the time, he was like, take your computer with you. But then I kind of got, I was working from home a lot. I was young. Me and my husband, we were, in Charlotte in a new area. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to go out and try to actually get a job where I can go into the office. And I found an IT company that literally was almost identical to the one that I was in South Alabama. And I started working there. And I came across some great people, and that's how I got connected with y'all through a contact, Jamie. And Jamie connected me to Adam Power, and then I was able to just take a business from there. Now I did eventually end up going back to the IT company down here because I did realize I liked working from home, and it allowed me a little less commute time to work on business and things like that. So Loomiti was kind of born at that point.
So, as I'm following your story, you had a full time job and were working the traditional
Yes,
9 to 5, and you started Lumity as a side hustle.
absolutely, absolutely. It just kind of like got thrust upon me almost, you know what I mean? Like through connections. And so that's where like really my first big part-time came from Jamie introducing me to Adam Power, to Howie, and then eventually you, Beth.
Well, you and Howie have something in common because he was a armed forces disc jockey in the military and had his own radio show on the USS Mount Whitney called Smokin' Joe and Elmo.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I did not know that. That is incredible.
That probably explains why you guys get along so well. You just didn't even know you had that connection underneath it all.
No. That's great. That's great. Yes.
That sounds like a topic for a whole nother episode of this
Yeah.
podcast. But what a great story. So now Lumity has grown. You guys have returned home to South Alabama now, and Lumity is continuing to grow. So, what has the last like 3 years been like for Lumity and for you on your journey as a business owner?
Absolutely. So I think about it, and I was lucky enough because my husband had a job, had benefits, and he said, just go out on your own. Like, I'm here to support you. I was like, look, I'll be a server. I'll do whatever I need to if I don't make it. And so Lumity, I started, and I had some core clients. Essentially, I took people I had worked for, and they became my clients. And it's just it's become more than I could have ever imagined. I was looking at it as more of a job, and now it's a future, and that's really exciting to be able to see. It also gives me some time and some flexibility to be with my daughter, go to her preschool, my son, be able to stay home and see him as well. And so what I've seen is just from when my daughter was born, the amount of clients and the amount of referrals and just everything has just tripled, and it's just really exciting. People are very excited about marketing. I'm excited about marketing, and it's been really wonderful.
Marketing is such an interesting industry because it's gone beyond just simply selling a product. Now, marketing really applies to things like individuals building a personal brand, putting themselves out there. Marketing, kind of like sales, they always say that you sell every day of your life, even if you're just selling your spouse on having Mexican for dinner.
That's it.
Marketing is the same thing. And those things really go hand in hand, even though they're kind of separate skill sets, but they are tied together at the hip, really.
Absolutely. Marketing is involved in everything you do. And I've always said that, when it came time when I would put out resumes, I would market myself. I would get all these LinkedIn recommendations. I would make my resume look pretty, more so than just your average resume, because I believe in marketing yourself. And so it's that individual brand message, story brand. So.
So today, Lumity has grown. You referenced that, it's tripled. You've had to expand. Talk about like the moment when you realized this has outgrown me and now we need to do something to scale. Was there a decision point where you had to think, do I stay here or do we grow?
Exactly. And that was it, kind of came when one of my clients came on, and he is a marketing firm as well, and so he had a bunch of social media clients, and I was like, wow, okay, I have just taken on now like 30 additional customers through him. It's time. I need someone to come on and be my marketing manager essentially. And so I had to build out these processes, and I have found this wonderful girl named Heather, and she is fabulous, and she is just always she's wonderful at the social media. She does a great job. She's consistent. And so I've had that opportunity to bring on, and this is one of my favorite parts, is a stay-at-home parent who wants to be with their kid, wants the flexibility to work whenever. But if you get me the work done, that's all that matters. So she's been great. I think it's been great for her lifestyle, and it just really works for the both of us.
And that's what I mean when I say you're living out the American dream. So not only did you work a 9 to 5, you began a side hustle. That side hustle became your primary job, and you've grown that business now to where now you're a job creator in the American economy. What do you think about that?
It's wild. Because you just don't think about like doing that, or bringing in those opportunities. And it's just wonderful. It's a great relationship between the both of us. Like, she does wonderful work. And then I think the flexibility allows her to be with her kid, but still, because there's a lot of stay-at-home parents who they need to be home with their kids, because finding childcare, reliable childcare today, is very, very difficult. It's very pricey. And having a job where you can be at home with your kid and work, when they're napping, or at night, or, when they're off doing their own thing, it's nice, because that's kind of how mine started, with my daughter, is that before we had a nanny, before we had any of that, I was with her some, and then would plan my meetings around that. And so I got to see my kids grow up. Well, she's 3, and then now I have a newborn. So getting to see him grow up with that. And so there's lots of stay-at-home parents who are super smart, have so much potential, and they're pouring it into their kids. But sometimes they want a different outlet. Sometimes they want something else. They want like to work a little bit, or do something along those lines. And so that's what I've seen. That was kind of me, and now I'm seeing it in others like Heather as well.
I think what's great about the era in which we're in is creating those opportunities. It has never been easier or more accessible to everybody being able to figure out how to work online. 20 years ago, you couldn't. The technology didn't exist then to do what we can do today.
No, yes.
And people that really want that can figure out ways to create that. You're seeing so many ways to make money. As if you have a cell phone and a cell phone plan, you can make money and
You can't.
not have to be solely dependent upon a 9 to 5 or going into an office somewhere. It gives people a lot more control over their futures, I think.
And it's one of the biggest things, and one thing I always wanted, and that's why one of the biggest reasons I did not go into, being a news anchor or radio or anything like that, is I wanted the work-life balance, because I love work. I do. I work a lot, but I also want to see my kids. I want to have some fun with my kids when I can't. You don't get that time back. And so I found that when you have something like this, you can have, people say you can't have it all, but I'm learning that if you work hard enough and you organize, you can. You can be
Yeah,
with your kids and work some. So it's nice.
I love that. One of the themes I picked up from prior in our conversations, you talked a lot about having your board of advisors and mentors that made a real difference in that early stages when you were in college and in your early career. Talk about some of the things that you learned from them that you carry forward today.
Man, so many things. Like, I have so many wonderful people in my life who've helped me. My dad, he's an accountant, controller, so he's always got that tax background. My stepmom's in HR. And then you've got like all these business owners that I've worked for or been connected with. And even my clients, they'll come to me. I guess like I sold something. They said, Chrissy, come to us next time before you sell something, because we're going to show you how to stick to your guns. Don't lower pricing for anyone. And I love the feedback that I get from these people, because they're only, coming from a place of being helpful. And so my mentors, they've just been wonderful in everything, not just like my business, but in my personal life too. They've celebrated, like you and Howie, y'all have celebrated the birth of my children. And it's just wonderful to see that connection. And for example, Philip is one of my really great mentors, and he's all about thought leadership. And that's where I got that thought leadership approach, was like, okay, pour into yourself. He is big on reading. So I went, and I'm still in that phase, going through and reading all these wonderful books for marketing, and not even just marketing, just business in general, and taking so much from those. You wouldn't think that. There's one of my favorite books. It was Disney University, and from by Doug Lip, and it's just incorporating like the Disney style customer service, communication, all of that into your business. So you can take so much from everything that you read. And so just pouring into yourself, being a thought leader, then it helps you be a better business leader. And that's one of the biggest things I've seen from my mentors.
Like that. How, if you could give some recommendations to people that are you today from when you were just getting out of college and early in your career, what would be a recommendation that you could give them about finding an advisor or a mentor in their life?
Absolutely. And it can be really difficult. Like, you need to find someone that you click with, someone who, it's almost like they don't just have the best interest, of course, the company, but they also want you to grow. And that's kind of what I saw with Philip, is that he wanted his employees to grow and he wanted people to step up. And so me leaving the company to him to start my own business has not been like a fault to him, because he's a client of mine. It's just it's the next step. It's the evolution. And so people need to find that too. Someone who not only cares about them for the business, but cares about also lifting their people up. And it's hard to describe it, because you'll just know it when you see it. You're comfortable talking to them about business issues, things like that. They listen to you. They help, mold you. They want to pour more education into you. And that's one thing I have noticed, is that there are some employees who don't want that. We could give them all the education in the world, and they just don't want it. It has to work for both. The mentor doesn't want to pour into someone who's not willing to put in the effort, and the other person has to put in the effort to, really elevate themselves. So it once you find that relationship, it's great, because I have found it through so many people, including y'all. It's just wonderful, like doing this podcast right now. I've really enjoyed it. So
I'm enjoying it too. We started the podcast for me personally. I wanted to learn some new skills and grow and evolve myself. And we've also got mentors. I think it's interesting. You get a certain point in life, you have people that are still mentoring you, but then you get to then mentor others. And it's just part of this great ecosystem that it's an honor and a privilege to be part of, really.
exactly, I feel like that's the next phase, is educating other people, helping those other people grow. Like, I want Heather and anyone else who joins my team to just like grow themselves, to be the best they can be, and I want to pour into them what others have done for myself.
Paying it back, paying it forward.
That's it.
Yeah, I like that. So, in the last few years have been exponential growth for Loomiti and for you, Christi, personally. As you look ahead into the next 3 years, if you could write the script, what would happen?
Well, let's see here. So, some really exciting news is we are going to be adding on some more service offerings and looking at more of like AI, which is really fascinating right now. So, my husband had worked for a company. He had just celebrated 10 years with the company, and decided that it was the best time to come over into the business once we gave birth to our son, our second child. And so he is now in the business, and he brings a whole other skill set, which is very exciting. So while I'm more marketing, events, all of that, he's bringing in the analytics, he's bringing in the AI, he's developing like AI chatbots, he's developing AI phone systems, all kinds of interesting things that really is very timely right now. Like, everybody is interested in AI. When I do webinars for my clients, that's one of the biggest things. So what I'm looking forward to is bringing in his skill set and being able to offer a more robust package of not just marketing, but incorporating actual like more business strategies.
Well, that is exciting. So now Lumity isn't just supporting you and your employees that you're having now, it really is a family business now.
It is. It is. And I love it, you know. Some people say working with your spouse is difficult. Yeah, you have your ups and downs, but honestly, like you're in it together. This is your what's putting food on the table, and it's just great. It's great to see the one, you know, when they win. If you have a low, they build you up. So it's just really nice to see, and we just can't wait to bring in his skill set and see what we can do.
And this really does loop back to my original thesis point, which is you guys are actually living the American dream. It is not dead. It's and this is actually happening all over America. I believe this is not just in southern Alabama with Loomiti. People are doing this today all over America, but it doesn't get enough attention. It doesn't get enough press. It doesn't make the news, but it is happening. It's not dead. It's out there. People are doing it, and it's accessible to everyone if you want to do it.
Exactly.
And I think
Exactly. You got to
that's
take a risk.
you do have to take some risk, but that's what makes it exciting. So I'm very pleased to hear about all your success and how Lumity is growing, and that is going to light the path for someone who's coming behind you.
Thank you. Thank you. We're very excited. So,
All right, is there anything important that we should talk about in terms of your what you've learned personally as a business owner as we wrap up this episode?
kind of feel like a broken record, but it's just it's thought leadership. It's, you know, just continue learning. Never stop learning. And you can learn from anything. I'll be on vacation and I'll be like, "What? Look at that billboard." And I'll snap a picture of it. Or I'll be in a restaurant and I'm like, "Oh, I love that marketing." Or I'll check my, you know, mailbox and I'm like, "Wow, that person for the tree cutting industry. I'm going to take a picture." So it's, you know, learn from everything. Everything you see, every customer service interaction you have, learn from it and try to incorporate it into what you do.
That makes me think of a funny story. When Howie and I were driving, it was right before Christmas, in the Christmas season. We were driving down a local road, and up here we've got companies that will install your Christmas lights for you. And there's the little signs by the side of the road that says we install Christmas lights with your number on them. And it was a little bit of clever marketing because there was the company that had Christmas light promotional sign there, and right in front of it was a competing company had put their sign in front of it and basically said, "We do the same thing, but we're better and cheaper." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that is brilliant right there." So love to know how that worked out for both of those companies, but you do see it everywhere when you look at it. And that always lets me know that humanity is going to be okay because there is a lot of clever content creation out there. People smart and clever, and it is fun to see it in the wild.
So one of the biggest things I've found is that you can find inspiration from everywhere out in the wild. And one of them was a restaurant, and I would go in and they would remember us every time and they would set us at the same table and they would bring things up. And it's just the experience I had. I was like, you know what? I'm going to take bits and pieces. So there may be industries that aren't related to what you do, but just always looking to see if there's inspiration in anything. I mean, you can find it everywhere. So that's really, really nice.
I think being a regular at a restaurant is one of those things that can make you feel a little bit famous. So I'm gonna tell one of Howie's stories here. He goes to the same Dunkin' Donuts every morning to get a cup of coffee on his way to work. Puts in his order on the mobile app, and so now when he pulls into the drive-through and they see his truck sitting at the speaker, they don't even ask him what he wants. They just say, "Good morning, Howie, please pull around." They know he's there, you know? And I'm like,
See?
that is really cool. And I think we can give that experience to other people as well because it's pretty great. We
It
checked
is.
in we checked in somewhere, and I had taken some friends of mine and we were checking in somewhere where that we go quite a bit down in Charleston, and we were heading to the elevator, and the concierge said, "Welcome back, Mrs. Barber." And I was like, "Oh my goodness." They knew I was
No,
here, and you could think about that and like how can we bring that to other people in our daily life? Just a little moment.
exactly. And honestly, like one of my favorite presentations I've ever seen, it's about this place called High Point University, which is shockingly just like really close to Charlotte. And I knew about it before I moved up there because they call it like the Disney of universities. It's supposed to be absolutely incredible, every single experience. And it was actually, I believe, a failing college. And then Nito Quabain came in, and he went to Disney. He, you know, saw some different things, and he instituted it in the college. And so since then, I have taken a lot of that presentation and seen it in my life. One of the stories that I heard, and it's just so clever, is there was this worn path on the grass, and it just always looked bad because no matter what they did, the students, they could put up signs, do not walk on the grass. That path was worn. So what they do, they realized there was no changing it. They paved that path and now it looks fabulous. So it's little things like that where I've realized, okay, if we're going to keep, if a client's going to keep doing it this way, then let's make a process around it. Let's change it up. Let's make our life easier, because if we've been saying the same thing over and over again and it's not getting anywhere, let's just make it happen. And so that presentation and other things like that is little things in life that you realize, can make a big impact.
I think that's people being people. That's human psychology, right? The
So,
market the market is speaking to you basically at that.
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And you just got to listen. And that's one of the things people don't like to do is listen. So,
Well, I love that. Okay, so our takeaway here is to listen and to try to bring little magic moments to people every day, and also to read Disney University by Doug Lip. That sounds like a great book.
yes.
I
It's
love it.
fabulous. And just find inspiration. Look for marketing, look for whatever you do, you know. Whatever business you're in. If you're an individual, look at how other people are branding themselves. So,
Look for those opportunities to have thought leadership and also market
yes.
yourself and raise your own visibility. That's what it's all about.
All boils down to.
Well, I want to thank you for being here today and sharing your story about your business growth, your journey. And again, I don't know that I can say it enough. The American dream is alive and well in this country. And we've just talked to an example of it. So thank you for making the time to be here with me today. And I look forward to having you back. Let's do this again.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you for joining this episode of Life Serve Neat, and we'll see you all in the next one.